Alrighty, thank you everybody for being here. We're going to talk about Tech Tuesday today. Let me pull up this simple slide deck just to kick us off here. And we are at Tech Tuesday. And at the Optimization Specialist, we're on a mission to help companies save time, money, and energy. We do that by helping people with their technology. So a lot of times, the system can do something, but the system or the tech is just not doing it. So our unique value is that we want to save time, money, and energy, and we can listen to companies kind of behind the scene and help them strategize. We've worked with several brands and companies over the last few years. These are some of our favorites. We've done a lot of builds behind SaaS and behind project management. So the CRM side of customer relationship management, helping to automate their communications and their connect points with leads all the way up to clients, and then also project management. And so today on Tech Tuesday, just wanted to give a high level overview of what that is, but we're going to actually dive into some automation tips. And I'm going to turn it over to my co-founder, John, to talk more about some really cool automation tips that he's helped build, and then also some integrations with other technologies. So let me turn it over to John.
Awesome. Thanks, Cristy. So yeah, I am definitely the tech nerd on the team, always trying to find new ways to optimize or shave 5 minutes here, an hour there where possible. And now with the world of AI, that's becoming even more powerful. And I don't know if I'm going to say easier, but maybe just mostly more powerful, because AI is, before it was just taking data from point A and sending it to point B, but now we can have this AI brain kind of process information and give us data back. And so I wanted to go over some of the automations today. I want to talk a little bit more about really how we think about automations, and then we'll kind of map out some of the fun ones that I've worked with, some that I've heard about that I haven't quite had the chance to implement, and some tools that will kind of help us get there that you don't always have to be super tech savvy to know how to do. That's the other great thing. As technology advances, you used to have a background in coding or understand a lot of things, but now with a lot of no-code solutions, such as like Zapier and Make.com that we'll jump into, it's a lot easier to just kind of drag and drop different pieces together, connect different apps together to send the data where it needs to go. And so really, when we focus on automations, really the number one driver is saving time. And then how do you save time? And that is automating repetitive processes. So as a team member, I might be doing the same thing multiple times a day, especially copying and pasting data between applications. That's typically the number one place we jump in. And if there are open APIs or webhooks, which I'm getting a little technical here, but typically there are integrations on a Zapier or a Make.com that basically says, take information from application A and send it to application B. So for instance, maybe when I get an email, I want to read that email and then maybe send that data somewhere. Or the better one would be if somebody fills out a form, that could be a Google form or a form inside of your CRM or any of the other form systems out there like JotForm or anything you can think of. Then when that is filled out, take that data and do something with it, whether it's send it into a spreadsheet, send an email to that person, an autoresponder. Maybe you want to send an email to yourself to let you know that somebody filled out a form. That is a big thing that's really powerful. Or sometimes they're filling out a form for product A, and we also want to copy that into product B. And so one of our clients is a roofing company. Their main app that they do a lot of their work out of is AccuLinks, which is built really good for the roofing industry, but it lacks features when it comes to communication and automation. So AccuLinks is where they do book their bookings, and that's how they can kind of dispatch their teams. CRMs aren't really built for dispatching. They're built more for customer management and communication. So they manage the dispatch inside of AccuLinks, but we tie them into their toolkit subscription. So that way we can ask for review requests. If somebody submits a form, we automatically send a text message and a voicemail. We're trying to get that communication going as quickly as possible. So their systems are synced back and forth. So that way when they enter a name and email and their AccuLink software is added to the toolkit, or vice versa. If somebody calls in and it gets routed through the toolkit, they can click a button and it sends that information to AccuLinks. That is really powerful because, one, you don't want something in one system that's not in the other, Or as humans, we can make mistakes and we don't always copy the information over the proper way. And so by using technology or no code solutions to send that data back and forth, you don't have to do anything other than work inside of the one app, and then the other app is synced with that. And so that's really where we see ourselves saving time and making sure that that data is in a great spot. So one thing I wanted to go over today was a cool automation that I built last week, and this is going to tie into AI. And so all of us use, at this point, almost every business owner I know is using ChatGPT one way or another. They open up ChatGPT, they ask it questions. Maybe you're to the level that you have some projects going, so you can continue that context. But a lot of times we're asking it questions, we're asking it to make content for us maybe. But when you start connecting this into no-code solutions, now you can do something inside of an app, automatically send it use those same prompts you're doing, in the user interface, but have that done through an API, and then it will give you information back. So the one area that I was looking at today is essentially we have leads that might book a discovery call with us. And we want to get as much information on that lead so that way we have a little bit more to talk about, make sure we have some more context. Now, we do have an intake form that does help us with a lot of information, but sometimes people might fill out a basic form, or all we have is a business card and we don't have as many details at our fingertips. So with the power of AI, ChatGPT in this case, we have the ability to go and grab an entire summary on a person. And so I'm going to share my screen here and kind of show, one, what the end result looks like, and two, how this works on the back end. So we had our some of our registrations for today, and essentially, as long as I have a name and an email, I can go and grab a full summary that tells me a little bit about who the person is, if their website is in their email domain, so not like a Gmail account, but essentially just like ours. Our name's at optimizationspecialist.com. That tells me exactly what your website is. So I asked ChatGPT to go out and research that information, identify the business type. And then my favorite part of this is it has context of who we are. I say, hey, we're the optimization specialist. This is what we do. Based off of that, give us 3 things that we could potentially do to help provide value. So obviously I know how to provide value after a discovery call, but I think it's good to just give some 3 very quick ideas of how we could help that particular person, just to give kind of a jumping off point. And so all I had to do is add them to the toolkit, and it automatically goes and grabs that information for us, which is really powerful. So sometimes I would go and do that manually, open up a second tab, open up ChatGPT and ask those questions. But because we did this through just 3 very basic steps inside of Make, then this automatically goes out and does that. Now, I'm going to try to stay as high level as possible on here. If people have used Zapier before, this is a very similar system, but essentially when something comes into our toolkit, we send out a webhook, which essentially is just like, hey, let me send 10 pieces of information to a website, or it's called a webhook or an API. And so you can take that information and do something with it. So when we add them to it, I've set up the automation in our toolkit that says send phone number, email, name, and their business name into this URL here. And then this is the most powerful part of all of this. And I'll show the exact prompt that we do. This is very similar to a prompt that you would build in ChatGPT. So the first one is you typically give it a context. So you're a helpful assistant for optimization specialists, a company that helps small businesses streamline their operations, blah, blah, blah. So the one thing about the API, I've been using ChatGPT for 2 years now, and it knows everything about me. So it's very easy to have conversations because I use it every single day. When you use the API, it is a blank slate. So you do need to basically give it the context that you need it to understand. So again, ChatGPT might know everything about you in your life, but as soon as you connect to an API, the OpenAI API, then you do need to refeed it that context every time. So we tell them who we are, what the goal is to, or what we do. So there's a lot of context there. And then when given a lead's name, email, and business name, your job is to try to identify or guess their website using the email domain, write a short summary, and then suggest 1 to 3 ways the optimization specialist could help that business. And then down here, what I do is I basically submit that information. So I grab the name, email, and company name that came from our CRM that's in this module right here. You can see as I hover over this, it's basically just saying, hey, grab from this step. And then the output of that goes back to our CRM. So there's a result after it goes and talks to ChatGPT. And then there's another module that plugs right back into the toolkit. And we say, hey, add a note to this context record. And if I actually step back one and we look at one that ran, we can see here's all of the data that came in from the toolkit. Here is essentially, this is really easy because this is the information that I fed it, but here's the result, that really long text that we saw earlier. And then I said to, I already had the contact ID from our CRM, and then I just passed in this full block of text, and then it added it to the contact. So again, a little bit long explanation, but like as you continue to work with this, you realize that it's 3 quick steps and it goes really well. And one thing I want to say is I used ChatGPT to help me build the prompting for this. So I pretty much just started with, hey, I want to build a workflow that does essentially what we did here is I want it to go research on this. And it gave me a prompt that was okay. And then it didn't quite look how I wanted it to. So we had about 6 or 7 back and forth. And I made sure I gave it more context to say, hey, I'm feeding this into Make. I'm using the Open API. What role should I use? And that's why we have a developer role and a user role. But all of that was copy pasted from ChatGPT into here. If we go back to the diagram here, so it told me exactly what to type in here, and I did some testing, and it helped me build this out. So I am not an expert at this. I didn't have to be a pro, ChatGPT prompter or anything like that. I just had a continuous back and forth conversation with ChatGPT, and it helped me create these 2 prompts that now give us that full summary. So really powerful there. I think I built this whole thing in, if I include the back and forth with ChatGPT, maybe 15 minutes max. But having that context now as we go into calls and just kind of a reminder of who these different people we're talking to, who they are, is really powerful. So that's a way you can do it. And you can do this in Zapier too. There's a lot of no-code solutions out there. If you have ChatGPT open in one window and this in the other, it can kind of walk you through very basic functionality. Sometimes you have to get in the weeds on it, but this was a very great setup that I built and we're going to use forever. And now that we've brought in OpenAI or ChatGPT, this allows us to do a lot more. As we already know the power of AI, now we pretty much have this at our fingertips, but we're connecting it with data that is coming in and out of different applications, which is really cool. And apps like Make.com or Zapier have access to hundreds and hundreds of different apps, all your Google suites, Microsoft Suite, many different CRMs. There's so many different apps that it has access to that you can either grab information from or send information to. So if you drop AI in the middle of that, it's really powerful when you want to get more detailed data out of it. Let's see, I'm watching time here. So one other thing that people might be hearing about are agents. So AI agents is essentially kind of doing a lot of this work for you, and people are starting to build templates out there, and it's essentially still kind of just connecting multiple apps together, and this reduces a lot of the need to be technical. So I built that, hand by, like, one step at a time myself. But there is this great new AI agent system out there called Lindy, which is lindy.ai, and they have a lot of really cool agents. And so the one that I was playing around with the other day, and I'm still in that exploration phase of a lot of these, is a meeting prep assistant. So what this does is every day it goes in and looks at my calendar and the people that are on my meeting invites, and it will go out and kind of do very similar to what we built for the lead summary, but it goes out and grabs information on that person. It will also read through my email to see if we had any conversations on it, and then it would give me kind of notes that are related to that meeting, which is really powerful. And so this was as simple as clicking new agent and searching for something. If we click on all apps on here, and then I just typed in meeting prep, and then I clicked on this and it had everything in it. And so if I go here, we won't go into all these details, but you can see all of the details on here where it's connecting to your calendar, getting the event details, searching your emails. It goes out to Perplexity to find information on the people. So this is something I haven't dug into too much. To me, this is a little scarier to mess with than what we built over on the lead summary generation. But all this was a simple add the agent, connect my Google account, and it was kind of like off to the races, which is really cool. Meeting note taker, they have one here. We use Fathom. This is one other tool that I can never live without. Cristy and I use this in every call that we have with somebody, and it's just a note taker. We like Fathom. There's plenty out there. We haven't tested them all. Just Fathom is free. It records the video and it spits out a transcript at the end of this. It even does some summarized action items, which is great. But one thing I wanted to mention that I like about Fathom that I've noticed is missing in other note takers is you have access to the transcript on the free plan. And so Fathom is built to do a summary in their very specific way. They've programmed it to do it based off of very specific things. But if you have a transcript from Fathom, you can drop that into ChatGPT and ask it a little bit more detailed questions as far as what are the action items for me? Or can we start outlining a rough proposal? Or if you were an expert in this, what would you recommend for us to work on? And so having access to that transcript from a meeting from meeting notes is really powerful. And it gives you, one, you don't have to worry about things. And many times we'll even mention the note taker in the call because sometimes we might very quickly go through 2 or 3 quick action items or 2 or 3 things that we're going to build in the future. And rather than like writing it down and kind of having to write it in rough chicken scratch that doesn't have all the context, we kind of just say, this is the note taker. We're using the note taker, let's summarize this, or Fathom's even great because it has a highlight button. So if we say something important, we can click the highlight button, it'll go backwards and kind of just highlight that section. So we have that, and sometimes at the end, as most people, as we go to summarize the call and bring it to a close, we might very quickly rattle off some quick things, and then that gives the AI so much more power to go and grab that very quickly. Because sometimes AI is great, it doesn't always read between the lines. So maybe you and I assume something and we kind of talk about it in context, but the AI doesn't pick that up. So at the very end, we just very quickly summarize those action items, and then we can take that transcript and print out a really nice summary report versus trying to start from scratch. So AI note takers are definitely nothing new. I think that was really the beginning of AI tools. But if you're not using one, highly recommend it. And then there's a lot of other agents in here. You can build them from scratch. There's a lead generator or lead outreacher. These were interesting just because they were expensive from a credits perspective. But if you give it enough context, it might be able to go find 3 top leads in your area in a very specific industry. So again, everything in AI comes down to you giving it enough context. So if you give it enough context of a very perfect avatar, then it could go find those in a particular area and then maybe even draft some emails for them, which is really cool. Cristy, I'll pause there. Anything to mention on these? Anything come into mind?
Well, you've touched on a lot, so thank you for going through this, John. I would say on the first part of this, talking through the automations through Make, it's really great because it's a low-code, no-code tool. Also looking at how you talked about how the applications can basically talk to each other. So what I thought was really neat about this application here, in this example, is that, that form where somebody's inputting the information because they found us online, they're filling out the info, it's automatically ending up in our CRM. They're getting the communications to go out, and between the time that they got the automated communication to say, hey, we're looking forward to meeting with you, or thank you for submitting this form, the robots essentially have done the back end work to do our market research. And one thing I'll say on market research, and I talk to so many founders about this, I'm like, but how long are you going to take on that? Because I think that you could definitely fall into a rabbit hole of, I've got to keep researching, right? And there's a quote out there that I really like. It says, you don't need more time, you need a deadline. And I feel like creating this prompt for the AI to go do the work for you gives you just enough. You can you read it, and then you go, hey, wait, maybe I have like a little bit more of a question on that thing or that, and you can go pull a thread, but you're not spending hours looking at their website and their social medias and their XYZs, right? Like it's giving you the high level information. And yes, like you said, you have to prompt it. So you have to be intentional with it. However, I think that's a really cool way to save time. And when we're looking at trying to understand our customers and getting on that call, this is a great way for us to really have that summary of them. So I wanted to call that out. The other thing I wanted to call out with the other part of this that you showed in terms of the AI agents and Lindy is the power of that. And I think we're on the front end of it. So you talk about the automatic early stages of a note taker, and there even Google Meet has a note taker, right? So we can transcribe this, we can record it. There's so many resources out there. It's a matter of, I think, executing and not being intimidated by the tech, but also coming at it from a strategic approach. And that's what I think the over 10 years of experience in software has given to you is, hey, while the system can do all of these things, how do we strategically approach this to help automate the back end of a business to help save customers that time and that money? And then you touched on tokens. And so in the credits space here, I'd actually really love for you to talk a little bit more on that. I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I think it's helpful for the audience to understand of like, this is Tech Tuesday, and we're talking about how technology is kind of transforming our systems and helping us improve. And so if somebody wanted to go out there and test these things out, to your point, you have credits or tokens, and what do those get us and how far can those go? And just dive a little bit more into that, I think could potentially be helpful if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And I know it'll be different across different platforms. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say it's always different across different platforms, but a very consistent thing with all the AI tools out there it's been common with technology forever. Is like you get a free trial, right? And some of them give you pro features free for a week because they want you to use all the tools, which I think sometimes a week, when you're dabbling, a week isn't quite enough time to get the full use case of that. Others, they give you credits and or tokens. That's kind of always something that's, I think ChatGPT or OpenAI, the creator of ChatGPT, kind of created that foundation because that's how they track different things and that's how they identify pricing. So essentially, different items are different expenses. So for instance, when we were looking at that lead, I think it was lead generator, this is what I was playing with. It will tell you somewhere on here, it told me essentially like each lead was 40 tokens. And so in this free trial period, you can see down here in the bottom left hand corner that I have 5,000. But each lead was about 40 tokens. And a lot of this comes down to, because like they're also paying for like a Claude API as an example. And you can see in this case, they connect to Claude. But you can kind of very quickly do the math that because this is a little bit heavier, that it goes out and does searching across multiple platforms for people based off of your criteria. It uses 40 a lead, which is like 120. So if this does 3 at a time, so we get 120 every single time we want to go and get 3 leads, which isn't too bad. But when you start doing the math, you realize very quickly that if I wanted 100 leads, then that's 12,000 credits. And so I'm already over that. And 100 leads isn't really that much. Like, it's cool that it did the work for me. I will say that saved a bunch of time. But when you want to start doing like bulk cold outreach, then 100 leads isn't much. So in this use case, I would say lead generation is very expensive. But for the meeting note taker, maybe a whole meeting is only 50. Maybe it's a token a minute or something like that. So now you have 5,000 minutes of recording potentially, right? And these credits are obviously applied differently across all of the different agents that they have created, and then you can upgrade and things like that. Obviously, at the end of the day, they're building a very powerful tool, and they want to make money off of this. So like there is that. So there are things that you want to pay attention to, and I would say like not all credits are created or treated equally. So something might seem like a great deal because it's super powerful, but you might run out of credits a lot quicker versus something else. So you might say, oh, this is like, I have almost unlimited credits. Yeah, but it doesn't go and do all of these things, or it's not as accurate, right? Like we are still in the beginning stages of this with AI. What my favorite thing I hear about AI is today is the worst that it's ever going to be. And that was the case 6 months ago, was the worst that it ever was 6 months ago, and here we are today. So 6 months, 12 months ago, people were starting to use it to write content and kind of just ask basic questions. Not too long ago, image generation got really good in ChatGPT, and people were creating their own avatars, which is really cool. And like now we're moving even further past that. And when we get into this agent space, and we're actually using AI to go do tasks for us, we're essentially reducing the need for extra work. I hate to say that we're replacing people. I know AI is going to do that, but I look at this more of a tool to empower and give extra time back to your current group of team members. There's a lot of very boring items out there. One of the big ones is, hey, take the notes from this meeting and then go, create a summary or do these things, or before this meeting, can you go and research on this lead? So when I jump on the call with them, right? That to me, I think was a very common task for an assistant to do, and now that can all be done. So now they can go do things that are worth a lot more to you, right? Like wrapping up proposals or whatever that is. So I mean, that's very lightly dips into the world of buy back your time and understanding which tasks generate more money and more energy. A lot of times today, you might be hiring out for those items that don't create a lot of energy for you and you want somebody else to handle. Well, now they can essentially almost hire out through tools like AI so that they can do the better tasks that are better done by a human, right? There's definitely still going to be some things out there that at minimum, you need humans to double check AI because AI does hallucinate. But there's still plenty of things out there that humans are going to need to do that AI is not quite there yet. But give them these tools for these very basic, again, data, understanding data, going and grabbing data, AI is very good at. Communicating with people, not as much, right? That's where you get a lot of those really weird messages that people copy paste from ChatGPT into emails and things like that. But it is getting better. And as people get better at prompting and just the AI continues to expand, then you have that opportunity. So AI agents, I think, is definitely the next step in there. And I mean, you could almost say in a way that this little automation that I built over here could be an agent, or it's agent-like, I guess. I think the new word is agent-tary. So that's like AI, again, that kind of goes and does things for you versus ChatGPT, which is typically generative AI, where you just ask it questions. And so both powerful in their own way, but just understanding that we're starting to get to the next step of AI where it's able to accomplish things for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think you hit on a few things there. The biggest thing that I would like to call out is, you do have to do your research because, like you said, it's like not all tech is created equally. And I think that when we look at, these credits over here can do lead gen, but like, is this the proper tool to use for lead gen? Are you making something cool or building something cool because now you're using AI and you're just saying, hey, by the way, now we use this product and we spend a bunch of money, and like now you're defeating the purpose. You see where I'm going with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, it's like, okay, become an expert at what you're looking for. And an expert, I say loosely, of understanding what are the pros and the cons, the benefits, right? And I think that's where we can come in too, and understanding like, hey, we've built multiple different CRMs and we recognize that this was something that was eating up clients' time. So now it's a value add. Buying back your time is super valuable. And that's what we're trying to highlight in this Tech Tuesday is, maybe some people look at the automations that you built and say, whoa, that seems extremely overwhelming and technical. Well, that's where you can lean into people like us and our company to help build that, right? And it's, hey, if you think it can do the technology aspect of it, it probably can, but how do you make it do the thing is sometimes the more challenging part. And so I think what you've showed today has been super powerful. And what I would encourage is that, people are not intimidated or overwhelmed because technology is not going anywhere and it's going to continue to advance. And I really like that phrase. I've never heard it before, where it's like, would you say it was the dumbest it's been?
Yeah, this is the worst this is the worst the technology will ever be.
Yeah, and that's super powerful, and that's true. And I remember 2 years ago when ChatGPT was just coming out, it was, hey, how do you use this? How do you prompt it? And now you're saying it knows everything about you. And I believe that too, because I think it's really powerful to use the tools and the technology as a support system, but they're not going to take over our jobs tomorrow. And how do we continue to grow with them? And it's things like what you're highlighting today is understanding how they work in conjunction with how we work, because AI is only as good as we prompt it, and AI is only as good as it is we allow it to get to, right? And so I think all of that's extremely beneficial and powerful for the community to listen to and to understand and know that each tool has its own pros and cons. And there's so many tools out there. I kind of look at it right now as like there's so many flavors of ice cream, right? There's so many flavors of AI and how you can taste each one of them, but just pick one that's right for you, test it out for 30 to 60 days, and then see if it's doing what you want it to do. Because I think, to your point again, is like this is a constant iteration. 2 years ago, AI was just on the market, and if you weren't talking about it, you were going to be left behind. And today, if you're not talking about it and it's not integrated, like you're already left behind. So how do you include that? How do you incorporate that? I think that's what the intent of Tech Tuesday is. And so I think you have one or two more things to share with us today.
Yeah, so my new favorite tool, this is definitely more of a distraction right now, but can be used very powerfully. And I'm trying to find cases that we can actually leverage this, I'll say in real life, not just like side pet projects. And so people might have heard people are probably starting to hear the term now, vibe coding, which I have background as a developer where I would write, hundreds or thousands of lines of code to do different things on a website. But now they have this thing called vibe coding where you don't need to have any of that experience to really start developing web pages and web apps. And so what I'm going to show today, the app's already done, so we're not going to do like a full demo of it, but it's called Replit. It's one of many out there. There's Replit, there's Bubble.io, I think there's Bolt.new. You can Google search and find all of these, but they all work very similarly under the hood. And essentially they start building web pages and code based off of prompting. And so I guess first I will show the page. And so this goes back, we were talking, Cristy, earlier about a month, because at this point it's a couple months back. A friend of mine, his dad passed, and he had some of his affairs in order, but not everything. And so my thought was, one, I wanted to do research using ChatGPT of like, how many people have a will? And it's less than half of people have a will, especially people at retirement age. And a lot of times millennials, our parents pass, and like we're kind of left with nothing, or like we're left with all of the leftover mess of kind of taking care of that. And then as a millennials, like we're not quite there yet either. We're not thinking about that, but maybe we need to. And a lot of pages, there's plenty of websites out there that kind of walk you through this, but they're so like cut and dry and professional. And I wanted something that was just a little bit easier. I was like, well, what if we could integrate AI into this and kind of walk you through it? So I essentially, all the stuff I just said, I essentially had a conversation back and forth with ChatGPT, and it came up with a couple features. And it's like, yeah, let's create a questionnaire that's AI based, and it can help them build a will, and it can kind of like connect them with the resources that they need. And so with that, I was able to create it. I told it I was going to feed all this into Replit so it understands how Replit takes input. But essentially, you kind of create some bullet points. And my bullet points were essentially, I need a web page that allows somebody to take a survey, and then based off of those results, direct them in the right way, right? If I've got all my affairs in order, there's not much to do. But if I have nothing in order, then I need to direct you a certain way. And so I pretty much gave it very human form of those prompts of, I need a survey of things. And I asked ChatGPT to give me the 7 questions just to kick it off, because like this is more of a proof of concept. But you can kind of click through these different questions and you can see actually that it changes. So actually, let's go back real quick. So I said this was, if I say planning ahead, it'll go one direction. But if I say recent death, it's going to change and say, what was your relationship to the person who passed away? And so they're my parent. What state do they live in? This just, every state is different. So we'll just say South Carolina since I'm here. What was the total value of their assets? You can just click on something. Did they have a will? Yes, they had a trust. And the executor, yes. Financial, we'll just click on that. So what this does now is this connects over to ChatGPT, I think is what I used. And basically based off of those inputs, it's going to give a summary. Very similar to if you went yourself to ChatGPT and kind of just said, hey, here's my situation, where can I start looking? But again, right now, we are seeing retirees starting to use ChatGPT, which is really cool, but they're not always. And so this gives you an output here. And so I built this, and well, I didn't build this, I should say. Replit was able to generate this entire thing in under 30 minutes. And so basically kind of a back and forth, very similar to ChatGPT. This is an older one, so we can't see the full discussion here, unfortunately. But essentially, we worked on different pages, and first it built the website, and then we did the checklist, and I want a button to click on create a will, and it does something. So here's another questionnaire, right? And it's going to ask me different things of how we're going to build this. So this is going to help generate a very rough template for a will. Again, this connects out to ChatGPT. I love this too. I didn't tell it to build a place to upload documents, but it did because it knows that that's something you need. And this is fully functioning. I've been in job searching right now, so I just uploaded a resume there to see if it actually worked, and it did. So this built everything in the matter of about 30 minutes. I don't need to know anything about code. I just needed to understand a little bit more of like what I want this application to look like. And so I've heard interviews of like the creator of Replit and others, and they are strong believers that the next $1 million or multi-million-dollar app is going to be created using this. And again, today is the worst it's going to be. There's definitely room for improvements there, but it's going to get better. But this is great from a proof of concept build out, which I think is really cool. And then also, because there's so much public documentation out there, you could put this as a kind of a overlay into like a customer portal for your clients is a great example, where all this is it gives them a nice place to like fill out some information, but the back end is it just drops everything into a spreadsheet for you. Or it just gives you access where they can upload documents or something. So if you are currently building software, or you just have a bunch of tools pulled together and you kind of want a central location, you might very be able to quickly, for like $50 or $100 back and forth with a Replit or an AI agent like this, create something that your customers will use, or maybe even just your internal team will use. This could be a central knowledge base for your team, where they can ask questions and you can create a chat bot and things like that. So kind of the sky is the limit, or your imagination is the limit in this case, and you can kind of go back and forth and build this very quickly. I listened to a great podcast where a guy is in his 80s. He used to be an engineer back in the day, and he's at a church, and they volunteer time and bring in people that can like cut hair and do oil changes and all these different services they give away to the community for free. But tracking who was coming, which service providers they needed, which oil they needed, and like oil filters and stuff they needed was a big pain. So about $200 later, and about 3 weeks of back and forth and continuous iterations on this, they now have an app, a phone app, that people can use to check in and sign up for things. And so a guy in his 80s built this, and he had ChatGPT open, or I think he used Claude in this case. He had Claude open to ask it questions like, what do I need to do when things break? He had Replit open on the other side, and was able to build a fully functioning app that like the church is using today to help do those things. And so this is definitely, again, my favorite distraction right now. I've just been using the free credits. You get, back to the credits thing, you get, I think it's like 10 milestones a month on this, which is essentially every time you create like a new like big functionality. So like the web page, the whole web page itself, that before it did anything was one milestone. Adding the questionnaire was another milestone. And it's cool though, because you build the questionnaire and then, oh, I don't like those questions, or it's not quite working the way I thought it would. Could we tweak that? That doesn't use one of those credits, because you're kind of just massaging the big milestone that you already hit. So it's not like every small little thing you add is a milestone. So you get a lot of, you get pretty far, but their entry level starts off at $25 a month for 25 credits, I think, and or 25 milestones, and you could have a lot of fun with that. So a lot of power here. Again, just kind of seeing where AI is going. It's both exciting and scary, as we were saying earlier, how we were able to build this without me writing a single line of code. Being in software development, this website would have taken months to build with a team of engineers and just understanding, like writing everything out. a team of engineers working 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, it would have still taken multiple months to build this much functionality. And then if I wanted to go and add another thing, that takes another 2 to 4 weeks to build. And here it takes maybe not 2 to 4 minutes, but maybe 2 to 4 hours. So like timeline down is really good. And then the great thing about this too is if you have a development team, they can go back in and actually like update and tweak the code to maybe be a little bit more granular on things. So I think this is powerful for businesses, especially to even just get concepts across. So when you look at businesses that have an idea and they don't have money to pay a development team to do things, they can very quickly at least get the concept to put in front of other investors or in front of customers so they understand where they're going versus just like Figma is the big tool today of just like screenshots and art on the back of napkins type deal. So this is really where we're taking AI to the next level, I think, and building software using AI.
Yeah. As you mentioned, it's kind of a passion project for you now, but it's really powerful to see what AI can do and how you can adapt and adopt it so quickly, I would say. And especially too, you touched on the 80-year-old, and I think it's powerful to say like these tools are not for like people who can't figure it out. Everybody can figure this out. It doesn't matter if you're young or old or in between. I think too, looking at the first two examples is really focusing in on time management. And even the third example here, utilizing Retly. Wait, what's it called?
Replit.
Replit, sorry, thank you. We're using Replit to build a website. Like those take forever. And you touched on that. And I would like to just reiterate that, we like to help customers save time, money, and energy. And you've touched also on a lot of different technologies today, John. And when you look at those technologies, it's again, they all have their pros and cons. And having someone who can really be the champion of those tools and help execute them, I think is really powerful. And so, the AI or the technology is only as good as a human can ever make it. And so I would say hands down, the biggest thing here is pick a tool and use it and learn about it, and don't be afraid of it because AI is here to stay. And I know we have a kind of a smaller crowd here today, but would love to ask just a quick question if anybody wants to chime in. And John, I'll turn to you first, just so that we're not putting anybody majorly on the spot. But the question is what do you use ChatGPT for in your business, and or what are your favorite ChatGPT prompts?
Yeah, so ideation is definitely what I use it for. I have some chats open right now that it would take forever to read, I guess, to go back and forth. So I think that's the big one is like when I have an idea, we'll go back and forth and just like, is this valuable? What are the risks of this? Help me make this better. And then I always have like, well, what if, right? And I remember back in the day, I would have to have 25 tabs open in Google in order to like get all this information and sift through it. And some of it's junk and all this and that. And so using it for that, I think is the day-to-day of what I do. And as far as the prompting goes, when I wanted to just go make something, right? So the first part is I'm having conversations with it. I'm not expecting it to create anything for me. I'm just having it answer questions for me so I have better context. But on the flip side, when it comes to like generating content, generating proposal outlines, emails, things like that, I always make sure I tell it to ask me questions to get better context first, because sometimes I'm lazy in my prompting and I realize that I know what I'm saying, but it doesn't know what I'm saying because it can only understand the context of between the first letter and the last letter of the prompt that you put in. And sometimes it'll even hallucinate too. So you want to make sure that it's asking those questions, which is good. Because I think sometimes when you're doing something, you didn't even quite think of those questions. So ChatGPT, because it is so smart, will say, hey, that's cool, but if you could answer this one question for me, instead of kind of going a broad net, now I can get granular. And you weren't even thinking it from that angle. So having ChatGPT ask you questions, I think, is one of the most powerful things you can do. So you can give it more context and clarity so it can give you better clarity back.
Yeah, that's super cool. I like that. And I'll say for me, I use ChatGPT a lot to like validate that this is going to sound silly, but I think oftentimes I'm just trying to get to the point and save some time. Maybe not silly, and that's why I'm in this job, right? But like that's why we're co-founders here. But oftentimes my chat GPT will say, "You're very direct and the tone is friendly, but we could make it friendlier." And
Mm.
so it'll add like some fluffiness to it, just so it's like, "Hey, how's your day going?" Because I'm like, do we really need this fluffy aspect of it? And yes, we do, but also sometimes I rush a little too quickly. So I would say it helps me with my emails. It helps validate that I'm sending the right things to. Because to your point, it's interesting. Sometimes I'll prompt it and I'll say, "Hey, I want to send an email with these things," and then it'll say, "Well, did you think about this?" Or and it also knows I've prompted it with my personality. So I've entered in my personality assessments and, hey, this is how I speak as a business owner, and really tried to get it to understand who I am. And a fun prompt that I used one time, I can't remember the exact verbiage, but it was something along the lines of like, if I don't say anything about me, how would you visually describe me? And it
Hmm.
was funny because, first of all, it came back with, "Well, could I have some more context?" So I was like, of course, my ChatGPT would ask for more context. But then, secondly, it came back and it was this woman, and her name was Redshift. And I don't know why I came up with a nickname of that, but it was like basically you're in this powerful moment and movement, and it was this like aura of a person with red hair, and it was like it is a play on words with the red hair and the red energy, but red energy meaning like you're in this like light path. And I was like, this is pretty cool. So like I would say I also use ChatGPT to kind of help validate my insecurities sometimes, or give me some positivity. So
Yeah, it'll call you out too. I had a great prompt that said like, be direct, tell me what are my gaps and things like that, and like it called me out pretty good, and it wasn't wrong. I wouldn't expect it to be wrong in that case, which is good. And I've taken that before. One other thing that people I don't think are using as much is the voice part of ChatGPT. So when I'm driving, you know, a lot of times when you're driving by yourself, I used to have the habit of getting on a phone call just to like have something going on, or obviously listen to a podcast. But if I have an idea as I'm walking out the door, I can't text back and forth anymore. So I immediately turn on the voice part of it. And it's great to have that conversation back and forth. It's a little more glitchy again. It's getting better, right? Because sometimes it'll hear something and it thinks you said something, or admittedly, I think it goes a little bit too slow in the responses, but it is great if you have a 20-minute drive somewhere and you want to kind of like finish up that thought. You can have it back and forth using your voice versus having to wait and do text later on.
I like that. Well, I'll pause for just one quick second. If anybody wants to unmute and share their favorite ChatGPT prompt or how you use ChatGPT, would definitely love that, as that's been a hot topic of our conversation today. And if nobody wants to unmute, I won't put anybody on the spot either. Just give it a second here.
I'll go ahead and say like very similar to what you guys are using it for. I use it mainly for like ideation. I'll be the basic person also and just make sure my email is like straight to the point, like you already said, Cristy, and making sure I'm covering everything as possible. And also, like John said, like I don't think people really realize how powerful like, the voice feature is. And even when I'm walking like to work in the mornings or walking back to my room in the evenings, I'll use the voice feature to mainly type, but also just have conversation with it to give me ideas on whatever I'm asking it about. So it's a huge, like, powerful feature in the ChatGPT. I don't think people realize it. It's super easy, and they're obviously always improving ChatGPT, and the voice is just so realistic. So it sounds like a legitimate person's giving you ideas and talking to you. It just still blows my mind how it works.
Yeah, they've got ums in there now, pauses. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's getting better. I think they always still have a challenge with commas. It puts the pause like on the wrong side of the word every once in a while. But yeah, the fact that they're doing ums and like pauses is incredible now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll be honest, I have not used the voice function, and that's cool to hear that you have. I'll have to check it out, but what I'm hearing is that, again, AI is here to stay. It's a tool, it's a companion. It's something that works with us, not against us. And I would say that we do need to leverage it, and we don't want to fall behind. And so here at the Optimization Specialist, we want to remind you to track your leads, use a CRM, use automations, use AI and technology to your benefit. And when we look at tracking leads, is make sure you're having those conversations, you're communicating with your customers, and potential customers, and the faster you can communicate with them and give them that white glove service is so powerful. And it can automate, we just talked about all these different automations. You can automate the front end of, there's a lead walking in the door, you want to learn more about them, or you want to communicate with them. You can also automate all the way through there and automate the communications at the end, and like, hey, we're so excited now that you're onboarded, let's do all these updates, right? Let's do all these new things. And so if it's not logged, if you're not communicating, you're definitely dropping the ball somewhere. And so would love to just encourage you to leverage the technology at your fingertips. And if you're ever feeling overwhelmed, or like there's more that your technology can be doing, like, please lean in. We're always here to learn more about companies and do even just a discovery call, and really understand how you might be able to save time, money, and energy. And so with that, we're getting close to the end here, but I wanted to ask if there's any questions that we can answer, or John, if there's anything else you would like to add.
Yeah, I'll pause see if there's any questions, but just a couple things to close this out. Okay, so the one thing I was going to say, kind of just in line with the tools and everything, is everybody is starting a business, or they have their business for a reason, and it's because they're probably really good at one or a couple different things. But unfortunately, when you own a business, you wear multiple hats, unless you're a large corporation that's got a person for every single department, or you got multiple departments with multiple people in it. You are wearing multiple hats. And so the more that you get hung up kind of in the technology, or like these small repetitive tasks, is the more that you're getting pulled into your business. So you're working in your business and not on it, and really pull away from what you started this business for. And so, even if we take AI out of the, if we stop for a second, take AI out of the equation, there's still a lot of great ways out there with technology, and making sure you understand that you're using the right apps and connecting them using the automations. Very similar to like the make.com, right? Before we had OpenAI plugins, we were still taking data from a CRM and plugging it into other applications, things like that. But if you are in that overwhelm phase, you definitely need to do kind of that audit and understand, like, hey, if I could, how could I save 5 to 10 hours a week? And like, what are the things that I don't enjoy doing that I just feel that I'm doing over and over? Email admin is probably on the top of that list, because it is for a lot of people. There are one thing we didn't get to today. There is an AI tool out there that I've not got a chance to play with, but I've heard good things about. It's called Fixer.ai, FYXER.ai. And essentially it reads your emails and generates some responses for you, which is really cool. There's also an AI agent inside of that Lindy that I saw, that it labels emails for you. So even if it organizes your mailbox, I think that's really good. And we've talked previously before AI that is something typically you would hire out to like a virtual assistant. If you have a virtual assistant, give them these tools so they can keep doing it. But if you've been on the fence about a virtual assistant, Lindy AI, I think, is like $60 a month, which does seem kind of expensive for a technology piece. But if you could reduce and not have to hire an executive assistant just to manage your email, I think a lot of us would do that. And I think Fixer is $30 a month. So, Buy Back Your Time is a very important book that we both love, Cristy. I think there's a lot of tools out there. There can definitely be tool overwhelm, and that's definitely where we can kind of step in. You might actually be paying for more tools than what you need. And, by connecting a couple tools, maybe you can eliminate some, or you don't have quite the right tool. And by adding in one tool could really save you that 5 or 10 hours a week. So just kind of want to call that out. It's a lot when you're overwhelmed. It's a lot when you're trying to make money some places, but there's definitely some great tools out there that give you multiple return on your investment. And that's tools that we don't not even that we sell, right? We just showed some plenty tools today that we don't make a dime off of, but we definitely want to leverage in our business, because we are trying to cut back on all of those repetitive tasks. And like, I'm great at tech, so I want to keep doing the tech implementations. We need sales to do that. Like, that's what we focus on. But the writing the proposal part, like, yes, closed proposals make money, but like the more time that we spend on that, where that could potentially be automated, or at least outlined, is really powerful. So we're always trying to find those tools. I don't think I go a day without like, how could I save 5 minutes here and there, which is good and bad. I guess that's you can be lazy in times, but it all brings those tools together so you can scale your business and have more energy back too, so you can go enjoy life more.
I love it. I'm here for it. Fired up for the next one. We'll do another Tech Tuesday in August. We do have these scheduled out for the final Tuesday of each month. So it'll be August 26th, same time. So mark your calendar and we'll get some more communications out, but we'll be talking about different things. I kind of have a feeling we'll be talking about Fixer. So if you're interested in more about Fixer and or other workflow automations, then come for that, because it will be a different conversation. And ultimately, we're here to be helpful. So if there's workflow automations or optimization tips that you're seeking, feel free to shoot them our way, and we'll definitely post out content and or jump on a call. We're here to help educate our audience as well. So thank you for being here, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks everyone.